Hey everybody, it's me, April Henry, back from my 30th Facebook Live. I'm going to be doing these every day at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time until I run out of topics, which I haven't run out of topics so far. Um, you can find all my old ones on my website, aprilhenry.com, under writing, or on my YouTube channel, which is also called April Henry. Now, mostly I'm talking about writing, but today I thought for fun, this is an Ask Me Anything. So if you have a question you want to ask me while I'm talking, go ahead. But I thought I would start by talking more about this crazy class I took about 4 years ago called Urban Escape-and-Evasion, offered by On Point Tactical. I took that class with a friend, Hannah Jane, Jayne, another thriller writer, because we were the first writers to take the class, and I didn't want to pair up at the last part of the class with a crazy person, because there are some crazy people who take that class. But so I thought today I would talk a little bit about what to do if you are kidnapped and some options that you might have that we learned through this class. So uh, the class I felt like was practical if you were ever going to be in an unstable country, possibly practical if you're a woman. It was all around cool to learn this stuff. And what we were being taught wasn't meant to was meant to defeat kidnappers, not the police. So part of the class, we watched a lot of really creepy real life surveillance footage of people being kidnapped overseas. And obviously, the first thing is you do not want to go with the kidnapper. You do whatever you can not to go, including accepting being hurt or grabbing onto something that's too solid or too big to go into the trunk with you, like a bicycle or a telephone pole. Kidnappers, we saw, will employ shock and awe. They will hit you 5 times in the face, quickly handcuff you, duct tape you, dump you in a trunk, or pull you into a car and get you off the street. So, and then you have to think that there's going to be an increasing quality of incarceration. So the earlier you can escape, the better. First, you're in handcuffs in the trunk of a car. Then you're in a locked room in a compound, chained by the ankle to the bed. Every time you change situations, it gets worse. It gets harder to escape. So one of the things they taught us was to think about everything that we might have that's a tool. Anything in your pockets or your purse that you could use. Um, uh, okay, I'll get to that, Amanda. Is there a shoelace, a zipper, a key? Can you use your earring post to open zip ties? Your mouth can be used as another hand if you need to hold something. Think not just about getting out, but what you have on you that could be used as a weapon. Take, uh, can you take a padlock or a key ring on a shoestring? That's a weapon. Can you take a sock and fill it with rocks or coins? That's a weapon. So one of the things that we talked about was what to do is if you were tied up. And the first thing that you do, someone is tying your wrists together, you don't look at them. You keep your head down and to the side, and you look submissive, even though you're not. You push your knuckles together and you point them at their eyes so they can't see that your wrists are pretty far apart. And as they start to tighten, put outward pressure, elbows against your sides, keep your fists pointed at him so he doesn't recognize what you're doing, that you're keeping your wrists apart. If he goes between your wrists, try to catch the rope with your palms. And then later, when no one's watching you, you wiggle, twist. You maybe you grab a strand or two with your teeth and pull over, and you keep going. Another option would be to, if you had paracord in your shoelaces, which is just like a little narrow cord that you replace your shoelaces with, you might be able to saw through it. Maybe you'd be able to find something to burn it off with. So Amanda Jean asked about duct tape. If you're going to be duct taped, you almost want the opposite. Instead of trying to keep your wrists, instead of trying to keep your wrists apart, you want to keep everything close together so that you are already generating some tension in the tape. There are 3 ways to get out of duct tape. One is to raise your hands high overhead and bring them down hard. And then when your elbows meet your ribs or your hips, will usually generate enough force to split the tape. But if it starts to roll down a little bit, though, before you begin, you might kind of be screwed. And at that point, you're going to need to rub it on a sharp edge, like find the edge of a door, so usually sharp, or where the corner of a wall is, edge of a bookcase. Unzip your pants and use the zipper. And then the third option would be, again, if you ever replace your shoelaces with paracord, can you saw through it? So if you think about it, though, duct tape is easy to tear. I mean, it's kind of one of its properties, is that it's super easy to tear. So you're going to be trying to work with that property. It's not impossible. I have seen a ton of videos online lately that people send them to me, and they're like, oh, have you seen how you can get out of a zip tie using a shoelace? Well, yeah, you probably could out of this. This is from my laundry room. This is what cops and bad guys are going to use for your zip tie. So that's going to be way harder. So it's possible to break zip ties similar to duct tape. To pull it tight with your teeth, you center the locking mechanism between your wrists. You put your hands up and slam them down hard. But you know what? People will break wrists that way. You can cut them. This isn't a thing that I would practice getting out of at home by breaking it. Because if you screw up, you could really hurt yourself. And that doesn't matter if you're being kidnapped, but it does matter if you're just at home playing around. So you can also you can also use the trick with the paracord that you take out of your shoelaces, and you put loops on the end and lean back and pedal in the air with the paracord wrapped around the flex tie. And if you go back and forth, it will saw through this plastic. And you can also shim this. These work on the same principle as let's see, I'm trying to the same principle as a handcuff, in that there is a little ratcheting mechanism here. I don't know if I've ever actually done this, so let's see if I can do it. I'm putting a flat piece of metal in. I'm pressing it at the same time. I'm going to see if I can catch those teeth. And it feels like I am, yeah. I got out by using this flat piece of a broken barrette. So you can also use something that is more cylindrical, like a paper clip is more round. That also can catch the mechanism. So let's see. Back to handcuffs. I had talked about handcuffs a couple of weeks ago. And one of the things, if you're handcuffed, is you're going to want to try and get the handcuffs in front. And if you can, some people are super, super flexible, and I don't understand. It does not seem to be, you would think that it would be a skinny person could get them in front of themselves by stepping over their handcuffs backwards, but that doesn't necessarily seem true. My kid's friend, I saw her step over her handcuffs and get them in front, and she was wearing like high heels. So there's some certain flexibility in the shoulders or something that I don't quite understand. I could not get my handcuffs in front. Maybe if I laid on my back and I was desperate and I was contorting myself, I could do it. So if you can't get them in front of yourself, you're going to have to go with behind. There's also a possibility that you can slip your cuff, which is just, if you're thin enough, can you get this out over your hand? One way to try, if you have access to it, which maybe you have some gloves in your coat pocket, you would think that it would make it harder to get out of handcuffs, that it would make your wrist too thick. But try pulling on a glove and pulling it off your handcuff. Obviously, all you need to do is get out of one handcuff. so that you can get out. Let's see. I talked about last week, I talked about hinged cuffs being super hard to get out of. I thought I would just show you what those guys, what those look like. See how there is not going to be, even though it's got the same ratchet and mechanism, once you're in these things, you're not going to have the flexibility to move your hand and get over to pick your way out of these. Let's see. What else did I want to also talk about? I mean, if you were ever going to try with these, I would only try by putting them on with the point pointing down. And again, if I was practicing with handcuffs, I'd always have someone else around so they could get me out if need be. One time I was practicing trying to get out of double lock cuffs. I had them cuffed in front of me, and I had the handcuff key on my knee, and I was going to give up, and I went to grab the handcuff key, and it jumped off my knee and went underneath the hotel dresser, and it was way far under there, and I could not get it. And I knew that this was going to mean I was going to have to go down to the front desk and ask them to get the key for me. And I just thought, this is too embarrassing. So I somehow managed to get that key back, but it took a really long time. So those are some more tips on getting out of restraints. And Amanda Jean, or I don't know if you just go by Amanda, you can also see on my YouTube channel, I do show getting out of duct tape, and I also show a pretty small set of zip ties that I get out of by breaking them. So if you're ever going to practice breaking zip ties at home, which again, I would not do it, but if I was going to do it and I really wanted to, I would make some Wonder Woman duct tape bracelets so that those would serve as cushioning and protect my wrists. So that's it for today. I hope you guys have a productive weekend, and I will see you next week.